Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2023 film Naga, and it's a Saudi Arabian film, so this may actually be the first Saudi Arabian film I've ever seen in my life. Not 100% sure on that. I may have seen like one other one here or there, but it's interesting. This isn't going to be for everyone, I will say that much. I checked it out because I'd seen someone throwing it around on social media saying that it was like they were considering it to be one of the best foreign horror films of 2023. So I was like, oh, well, I should check that out then. And for me personally, it doesn't hit like that. But, this might be other people's cup of tea, basically. I see some good in it. I see some not so great in it. But I'll obviously talk about this in my no spoiler review. Also want people to know this is on Netflix. So it's very easy to see. You can see it with subtitles because it is in Arabic. Or they also have a dubbed English dubbed version. So whatever you're feeling, basically. This one's directed by Meshal Al Jaser. This is the individual's first feature film. And I will say, from a directorial standpoint, for it being the first feature film, pretty good start, in my opinion. One of my biggest things with this movie is it looks great. It has wonderful cinematography. Very much a fan of how this film looks visually. This film was written by Al Jaser as well as Nawaf Alshubaili. I hope I got that right. Alshubaili did Six Windows in the Desert, and the wrote a bunch of episodes for the Saudi Arabian version of the show The Office, which I didn't know there was a Saudi Arabian version, and when I found that out, kind of makes me curious. Like, I kind of want to see if I can find that somewhere and see how similar or dissimilar it is from the American and even the UK version. So, yeah. Again, Saudi Arabian film, so they're either subtitles or you can do it with dubs on Netflix. Quick synopsis. There's not a whole lot of story to this, I will say that. One of the big elements of it that people used to sell as being horror is there's a killer camel involved in the film, which is unique for what I've seen. Of all the horror films I've seen, it's a very unique thing, so I like that aspect of it. It's very, very interesting. But overall, what the story is about a woman who goes out on a date, and she's really not supposed to be going out the way she's going out. Her family would be pissed if they found out, so she's kind of sneaking off, doing something she's really not supposed to, and it's one of those movies that's kind of like one wild, strange night type thing. There have been a lot of these types of films that have been made over time. The only one that pops up in my mind is like a most recent thing, but it's very different from, but the idea is similar, is like Fried Berry, where it seems like it's just like a series of just things happening over the course of one night for this individual. So something's good, something's bad, one of those types of things. So one wild night type thing. So if that sounds like you're into it, you might be into this film. There's some very interesting camera work at the start of the movie, and it does continue throughout the film. Like I said, the cinematography I really enjoyed with this. There's some really inspired camera work in this, some really inspired cinematography. You can tell that there's talent here. There's a lot of talent, especially from a visual standpoint. Now, when it comes to writing, I would kind of question how much talent is really there and probably needs to be worked out a little bit more. I'm not saying the writing is bad. I'm just saying the writing is meandering. Really do have a hard time kind of connecting a lot of stuff and keeping it moving properly because, like I said, it's a very, very, very meandering film. You literally feel like, is there really a point to this? Where are they going? What are they going to do with this film? But again, like I was saying, if this is something that people like one of those kind of like take your time, meandering type films, like something like Slacker by Richard Linklater, if anyone's seen it, like just kind of like relax and enjoy the ride, not knowing where anything's going and just being down for whatever, then this is going to be a film you may enjoy. There is CGI that's used in this film. It doesn't look that great. From what I understand, kind of the United States is one of the countries that's kind of on the forefront of use of CGI. So other countries necessarily aren't. Also, I don't know how fledgling the film industry, especially like horror film, is in Saudi Arabia or not. So I don't know if that's a factor as well. And I don't really want to make any sort of assumptions here. But yeah, the CGI doesn't look great. It's one of those things where like it happens and you're like, whoa, yeah, that's clearly CGI. Looks very wonky, not great. So just know that. One thing I really enjoy in this is that you see a lot of cityscape because there's this kind of exploratory nature to the camera work, and because of that meandering style I'm talking about, you really are following characters for like long stints of time. So you see a really nice cityscape, but then later on in the film, you actually go out into the desert and you kind of see a lot more of that. So for me, I really like that aspect of it just because I'm always interested to see what other countries look like what their architecture is like, how their cities run, what the people around there are up to, like what are their like marketplaces look like, what do their businesses look like, how are their streets like, and then when you go out into the desert portion, like I've never actually been to a desert before, like how are people living out there, like what's their setup. Those sorts of things are really interesting to me, so that is an aspect of the film that really did pull me in. So if you're into that stuff, you may enjoy that as well. It is quite slow moving and feels like it's not going anywhere. It does kind of go somewhere, but it also feels like kind of confused. Like they couldn't pick one thing that they really wanted to do with the film. It was just a bunch of ideas, and they're like, yeah, then we can just throw this in there, and then we can throw this in there, and throw in this. It seems like a kind of like a kitchen sink type film to me. So I wouldn't even necessarily call this a horror film. Is there a horror element to it? Yeah, there's definitely a clear horror aspect to it, but I wouldn't call it like a full-on horror film. So also, for someone to kind of be like, this is one of the best international horror films of the year, I question that categorization. But, that's kind of up to everyone else. There are portions that are very frantic and are kind of effective from the standpoint of inducing anxiety, like that perspective of things. So, there is some value to that to make your audience feel uncomfortable and anxious. But it also does make for a really frustrating film watching experience because you really can't see what's going on. And that's one of the biggest things for me. I always want to know what's going on in the film. And when you have just like that really fast, frantic camera work and you can't focus on anything, I get the feeling that they're trying to give you, but it's not really doing much for me as far as like knowing what's happening. And I did see some people online basically saying, this film's going to make you dizzy. And there are not a lot, but some segments that very much are like that. They also have a bunch of like kind of like strobing lights sequences, so if people are very sensitive to that, just know that that's in play. The acting is serviceable. I don't think it's like great acting. I don't think it's the worst I've ever seen. It's good enough, I would say, to kind of get through the film. And it ranges. Like some people are pretty solid, some people are not as solid. No one's like great, in my opinion. A lot of the dialogue doesn't seem to matter much to the film and just adds to that overall time-wasting feeling of the film. So further going to, it just kind of feels like they just wanted to make a much longer film. And the film's almost 2 hours. I really do think that it could benefit from having a bunch of stuff cut down. There are certain things that happen that I just think they could cut out completely. And then there are a bunch of scenes that I think would benefit from just being shaved down a bunch. Maybe make this closer to an hour, to be honest, based off the just kind of meandering nature of it. But then again, like I said, there's some people who are into this structure, and they'll certainly be into the film. I do think there are probably a bunch of societal things that end up getting thrown in this film, but that also becomes a bit of a problem because, like I was talking about, everything else just, it seems like they're throwing a lot of different things into this film, so that stuff can kind of easily get missed. I think it would have been better if they did want to go with some societal commentary, if they kind of focused on like one or two things and kind of hammered that home a little bit better. But there is something that I kind of pulled out of it that I'll talk about in a minute. Again, there is a horror element to it, but it primarily shows up towards the end of the film. The first half, like, you're not really getting that at all. I think it's probably within the last 30 minutes or so that you're actually getting like more of like a prolonged horror sequence. So if that's what you're looking for, that's how long you have to wait. If you like quirky meandering films, you may enjoy it because there is a quirk factor to it, which I can kind of appreciate. And the last thing I'll say is I do feel that this film could be viewed as a bit of a commentary on a woman living in a male-dominated society. I don't think that was necessarily the intent, but I think this is definitely something that you could watch this film and pull certain elements and pull certain scenes out of it and be like, yeah, it does kind of seem like you could view it that way. So just my feelings on it. But out of 5 stars, half stars in play, I feel like I'm going to give it 2.5 stars. Not huge on it. I feel really conflicted because there are some things I did quite like, but there are a bunch of things I also didn't really like. At first I was thinking 2 stars, but then I was like, no, I think I could go 2.5 stars, especially because I think there are probably some societal things that I'm definitely missing with the film because I'm not from Saudi Arabia. I'm not very in touch with the Saudi Arabian culture. So I'm going to bump it up just to the 2.5 and be like, I don't fully know which way to go on this one. But this is where I'd like to hear other people's opinions on it. So go ahead and put it down in the comments and just let me know, liked it, hated it, in between. Just give me like a sentence or two letting me know why. Then do me a favor, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I would greatly appreciate that support. Also supporting me by liking any of these videos I'm putting out. That helps with the YouTube algorithm. And then if you want to know when I'm putting up new videos, you can hit the notification bell button and you'll get notification when I am putting up videos. But regardless, thank you so much for checking out this particular video. And until next time, keep it brutal.